Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Money Talks, an exclusive conversation with some of the most brilliant minds in business, entrepreneurship, and finance. Today, we find ourselves once again in beautiful Dubai. We often talk about business. We often talk about understanding how to build an e-commerce empire, how to build a direct-to-consumer brand. But there's many of you that have the trading bug in you. As you guys know, I've made a lot of my money trading the markets, specifically the crypto markets. So as I spent time scrolling through the internet, I encountered an individual, and this individual was posting his P&Ls, and I was like, interesting. This is somebody that's actually authentic. This person's actually posting their results. So as I did some research and I did some R&D as I should, I was like, oh, interesting. This guy's doing some serious numbers. This guy's done over $15 million trading the markets. I was like, I need to get in touch with him. So throughout another one of my buddies, you guys will meet him by the name of Sean Dekmar. I was like, is this guy legit? And he said, yes, he's legit. Because in the trading space, you guys understand and you know that there's a lot of nonsense. There's people that have been trading for a year, 2 years. But I wanted to bring you somebody that is within our age bracket that's been able to achieve success. Umar, CEO and founder of TradeZella. Thank you for being here, brother.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Now, I'm excited because I don't often talk to people that trade in the markets at kind of like the retail level. You know, I either talk to guys that have wealth management funds or they're running big VC firms, but that to the average person is unapproachable, right? It's not very practical. And even though there's a lot of game dudes that are managing $4.5 billion of assets, a person that's sitting on $100,000 portfolio, it's not applicable. So I'm excited to talk to you about the markets, the current situation of the financial ecosystem. I want to talk about trading. But before we get into the money talks, I want to take it back to the beginning because backstage you were saying, dude, I've been trading for a decade, you know? And when people see a $100,000 day or they see $1 million month, or they see a $5 million year, they assume that, oh, this guy just made $5 million. But it wasn't so much the case. So take me back to the beginning. How did you get into the game, G?
Sure. So I was 18 years old, I remember I went on Forbes.com, right? And I was like, who made the most money in 2012, I think it was? And the top 3 or 4 people were hedge fund managers, right? So I was like, what is a hedge fund manager? And I see all of them are trading. So I was like, okay, so they trade stocks. So for me to be a billionaire, you know, when you're young, you want to hit these crazy numbers, I have to trade. So at 20 years old, I had 20 grand, at 18, I had 20 grand saved, and I took the 20 grand and I put it right into the markets. Now, just taking a step back, at that time, I was selling iPhones on Craigslist, right? Broken iPhones before the whole screen repair stuff became big, buying iPhones in bulk, making $100, $200 off a flip, and I kept doing that and I saved up money. And my mindset was, how do I take this money and double it and triple it? So I opened up an E-Trade account, and E-Trade doesn't exist now. I think they got bought out by TD Ameritrade. So that was like the first broker I opened an account with. I funded it $20,000 and I put money in JCPenney. And my psychology at the point was, JCPenney's so low, I see them everywhere. They're not going to go bankrupt. So they're going to go higher, right? So that stock, I think, went down 50%. So my $20,000 went to $10,000, and then it went back up, and I walked out making $2,000 on it. So when you look at it from like a trading perspective, I had a 50% drawdown to make 10% on the initial investment, which is terrible. But at the time, I'm like, wow, I made $2,200 in a month. Then I start taking similar trades, and next thing you know, my account is at 35 grand, right? And I'm like, wow, 35,000. I'm in high school. I made 15,000 in 2 months. This is it. I made it. And this is with no knowledge. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just taking money, throwing it, and hoping it, works out. Now, next thing that happens is obviously that train starts falling, 35,000 to 30 to 20 to 18 to 12 to 6 to 2. Summer comes, I have 2,000 in my account, and I'm like, what the hell happened? Why? Like, what went wrong? So at that point, everyone around me, and this is in 2012, 2013, when trading wasn't as big as it is now.
It wasn't the hot thing.
No, and social media was just coming up. Now you see everyone trading. It's easy to get in started, and it's easy to label someone as success. Like, hey, look at this guy doing it. Look at that guy doing it. Back then, that didn't exist. So my parents were against it. My friends were like, hey, trading is a scam. It's not going to work. And for me, I've always had the mentality of like, hey, because you guys said I can't do it, I want to try to prove you wrong. As you're young, that's kind of the mentality I had. And my thing was like, hey, let me be honest with myself. did I give this my 100%? You know, and that's one thing that I tell people to always have honesty within yourself. Did I give this my a real shot, or did I kind of half-ass it? And at the time, I half-assed it, right? I had no education, no knowledge. I had no idea what I was doing. I wasn't taking it serious. So I was like, okay, what I want to do is I want to give this a fair shot and really, really work on this to be like, okay, I tried, I gave it a fair shot, and it didn't work out after I gave it a fair shot. I can't quit when I didn't give it a fair shot and call it a failure, right? I will call something a failure when I gave it 100%. So that's when I said, you know what, I'm going to dial down. And the next 2 years after that, I was just head down, learning about the markets, learning about psychology. And every month I would come across a new discovery like, hey, wow, the markets move this way. This is a good entry point. This is a bad entry point. Then when I started learning about like the trading, technical side of trading, it was also now the psychology of trading, how my emotions play a role. Wow, well, I'm up 30% on a trade. Why am I not selling? And then when I started looking into that, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of emotions that get hijacked, right? Your critical thinking gets hijacked in the process, right? Because money's involved. So it was like a real interesting learning curve that I went through in like that 2-year period. And then from there, it was never like an aha moment. It's just things started picking up. I would do good in a year, then 2 months would go back, then a year would go well, then 2 years would go okay. And then I think my last 5 years is when I really got good at trading. And even the majority of the $15 million, that came in the last 4 or 5 years. The first 5 years, 6 years, I probably combined made $1 million. And from 2018 till now is where all that profit came. And that goes to show you the compoundness of like your skill set. So it's like I see people nowadays, they start in e-commerce or something for 2 months. It's like, I'm done. It's not working out. I start trading.
The market's saturated.
Yeah, it's not working. Yeah. And I'm like, you can't say something saturated or it's a scam unless you've gave it a 100% shot and you gave it a fair shot. And you've stayed there long enough. And I've learned this saying early on is if you're good in an industry and you stay alive long enough, you'll do well. If you're good and stay alive, yeah.
It's interesting because a lot of people, you know, they go into the markets and the first thing that they do is they open up a brokerage account and they'll watch a couple videos on trading and then they're putting their entire portfolio on the line. They're out here buying puts, calls, and running leverage trades like a bunch of degenerates because they want to grow their portfolio because they saw some dude in crypto do 1,000x, when that's just an anomaly, right? I was mentioning to you, I lost my money in 2017 trading. Yeah, the gains were stupid, but I didn't know what I was doing, right? And I even still at this point, I consider myself an amateur, like to be honest, but it's this entire premise of being real with yourself. And like you said, it's being honest. Did I give this a fair shot? Am I in a situation whereby did I sabotage myself?
Yeah.
Because of my emotions, because of my plan, because of my access to information, my network, and my resources? Or am I in a situation whereby I actually put forth the right effort, and whether I succeed or failed is completely up to things that I couldn't control as opposed to what you could control. Now, you also, we'll talk about trading in a bit, you also have TradeZella, which is a platform that helps and facilitates traders kind of in a 360 perspective. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So my biggest key takeaway in my trading journey was journaling, right? I journal every aspect of my life, personal and my trading, right? Even in business, because I realized when you're stuck in a certain point, you sometimes are your worst enemy, right? And the only way to figure that out is by self-reflection, right? So for me, self-reflection in my personal life is very important. I took that same self-reflection and I applied it in the trading world. And when I started journaling in my trading world, I started realizing a lot of things in my personal life carry over to my trading life as it should. And I mean, as they will. And I started realizing something as small as Mondays. Mondays used to be red for me, just from like psychological level. And when I started looking into it, I'm like, why are Mondays red for me? And I was like, oh, I know why. Because on the weekend, I'm looking forward to the market. I'm going in with this anticipation and excitement. So when Monday the market opens, I'm immediately running out like a bull. I'm just putting on trades that make no sense. Then the remainder of the week, because I have a drawdown, I'm trying to make that money back. So I'm like, oh, I got it. So Monday, I'm super excited. That excitement hijacks my critical thinking and I make stupid trades. So I'm like, okay, now what do I do to prevent that? Right. And from a prevention aspect, it was like, okay, well, Mondays, I'm going to cut my size down to 20% or 30%. And then from slowly, it was like, okay, Monday, first 30 minutes, I'm not allowed to trade. So I started putting out like training wheels and what I am or what I can't do.
You had your sandbox, your set of rules.
Exactly. And I followed that. And then I started seeing certain parts of my trading improve. Then I started realizing that when I have a big win, immediately on the second trade, my size goes up. So if I'm risking, let's say 5,000 or 10,000, on the second trade, I'll double it. Because I'm like, oh, I'm doing so good. What if I added more money? And I'm like, well, that's not a consistent way of growing my account, because if I make 20 grand in one trade and I'm risking 5 or 10,000 and I double that and I'm wrong, I won't ever be profitable. So journaling has allowed me to see that. So then over the years, I was like, hey, I wish there was a great journaling tool that was in the market. Now, there are things out there, but they're not built by traders. They're built by developers, right? So my expertise is in trading. So me being able to combine that and say, okay, well, this would be beneficial for a trader, this would be beneficial for a trader, was like, okay, well, let me build a tool that is primarily only internal. So TradeZella, the idea started as an internal tool because in 2020, I was going to start a trading floor in California before the COVID stuff happened. And I was like, I want to build an internal tool. So when, COVID shut everything down, I couldn't do the trading floor or anything. I was like, you know what? I started this project. Let's make it go global. Let's make something that the average retail trader comes in, they can track, journal, analyze, reflect their trading, every single trade they take, every single day they take, and just kind of understand their strengths and weaknesses. Essentially like QuickBooks for trading, right? Because if you start a business today, you're going to look at your balance sheet, you're going to look at your P&L, you're going to look at everything and analyze what parts of my business are doing well, what parts of my business are doing bad. Do I need to hire more employees? What do I have to be aggressive on, and so on? Trading is the same thing, but people don't look at it that way. So I was like, how do we bring that to retail traders and kind of emphasize treat trading like a business? How do you do it? And the number one to do it is to journal, track your trades, analyze your trades, and just look at the metrics.
I agree. Most people don't realize that even in their trading, there's patterns.
Yeah.
And with pattern recognition is where you can find improvement or where you can find things that you're doing well or poorly so that you can optimize them. So I think it's a beneficial tool. But what do you say to the people who are like, okay, I'm going to sign up for TradeZella now. That's dope. But talk to me about the people that actually aren't consistent with utilizing the tool, because it's not a magical tool. You have to actually utilize it.
Of course not.
So it carries me to the other part of consistency that you talked about. I've only been doing this successfully at a real level for 5 years. I've been doing this for 10. Talk to me about consistency and the compounding effect there.
Sure. So my first I've took my first trade. So when people ask me how long I've been trading, I've taken my first trade. It's been a decade. I would consider myself to be professionally trading for 6, maybe 7. The reason for that is the first 3 years, I was very wishy-washy. I was all over the place. I didn't intentfully trade, right? I wasn't intentfully recapping my trades, looking at what I'm trading. I didn't have a solid business plan, right? And I wasn't consistent. Like I'd be consistent for 2 weeks and then I would take a week off, right? So it goes into the same thing that you mentioned about a tool. Like, yeah, TradeZella is good if you utilize it. So for me, it was, hey, how do I utilize what I know consistently and compound it? Because when something compounds, you have to do it every day, right?
Yes.
If you do it every day, eventually it becomes something magical. So when I started taking trading serious, like journaling, recapping my trades, paying attention to the market, back testing strategies, learning more about the markets, and showing up every day, that's when I started seeing in a couple of months where my view on the market just started opening. But that's when I doubled down on showing up every day. And it wasn't like, hey, I'll show up for a week, I'll take a step back, I'll show up again. And that's what majority of people do. And then they blame everyone else. Hey, I took this guy's program, I did this guy's this thing. It didn't work out, but they're not consistent. They're not, showing up every day.
They're not even doing it, bro.
Yeah.
And that's something that I found that is interesting in your premise of, okay, I built the tool for me. And then I realized it's not just good for me, it's for everybody else. I had the same premise with Capital Club. I had gotten scammed massively in 2019. I was like, okay, dope, I have money, but I don't have a connection. I don't have networks. I don't have any sort of people that I can kind of surround myself with. Let me build the club for my group of people. And eventually turned into what it is today, but it wasn't the initial intention, which is the best way to build product. Is you build something based off of the problems that you see and being highly experienced at solving those problems. I often tell people, where there's problems, there's business. Yeah. And you need to be able to identify those things. Now, when it comes to identification, the markets are interesting because people are like, well, I identified something. But most people lose money. They think that they know how to trade. They think they know how to make money. Why is it that most people lose money in the markets?
So the first direct answer is psychology. But before we even go to psychology, it's people don't know how to trade, right? So not knowing how to trade is concept one. Then there's people that know how to trade, but they don't know themselves. So step one is knowing how to trade, right? So 99% of the stuff on social media of trading is fluff. It's bull crap. It doesn't make sense, right? So you'll see trading patterns, right? And it's like when you see people trading patterns and they don't understand the psychology of the markets and how institutions work, it's like, well, that just doesn't make sense, right? Because who moves the market? Institutions, big money moves the market. And I always tell people, if you look at big money's not sitting in a room and like, well, we see a double top pattern in the market, so we need to buy or we need to short, or we see this indicator doing this, so we need to do this. It's all about supply and demand, right? So auction market theory in terms of where is the market finding a heavy balance of buying and a heavy balance of selling? What is the fair price that the market thinks is fair for that day or for that session? That doesn't come from patterns.
And the market comes from between the buyer and the seller, which are deals that are happening that you can't even fucking see because they're billions of dollars, whether it's the Fed, whether it's the Bank of International Settlements, whether it's an overseas hedge fund or organization. They're the ones that are calling the price.
Exactly. So it's like it becomes very difficult where people, because obviously when people get started, their first source of starting is YouTube or Instagram or whatever. They find someone. And like I said, majority of people in that space, in my opinion, respectfully, don't know how to trade. They don't understand the markets at a deeper level. They'll take something and teach something that looks good. Because I can open up any chart to you and I can say, hey, Luke, this is a good place to buy. This is a good place to sell. This is why, and I can make it up. You'll watch it like, wow, this is amazing. He's so right. I want to do it. When you actually apply it, it doesn't work, right? So that's number one. People don't know how to trade. And when you go deeper into the concepts of trading, you'll start realizing that when you understand how the market works, like I said, it's the auction market theory, where we have aggressive buyers, aggressive sellers that find an equilibrium in price. Your job, as simple as it is to identify where that equilibrium is for the day. Some days the buyers may be more aggressive than sellers. Some days the sellers may be more aggressive. Some days they might agree on the current price. And if they agree on the current price, that's when the market has no action. So our job as traders is to identify that. And, in my opinion, indicators don't identify that. Looking at the basic things that people teach, patterns and triangle patterns and all that, don't identify that. It just comes down to order flow. What is the flow of the market in terms of orders? How are the orders coming in? Are the orders more aggressive? Are people lining up to buy this stock or buy this security? Or are people looking to aggressively sell this security? And if you can identify that, that gives you an edge. And most people, like if you go, like when I go through YouTube, it's always fun for me because I see what people teach. And I'm like, man, this doesn't work. There's no way like you can explain this works. But that's what people get exposed to, right? So when they get exposed to that, they apply it, it doesn't work. Now, the people that do have an idea of how to trade, their problems is they cannot understand and dissect themselves, right? We as humans, we all have different problems, right? Be it from our childhood, our upbringing, so on. And those problems always bleed into everything we do, right? And now the thing with trading is trading will expose your problems, especially your psychological problems. If you're naturally an impatient person, the trading will expose that. If you naturally get overly excited, you're fearful, whatever it is, you're greedy, the trading will expose that really, really hard. And people are not willing to work on themselves on identifying what the problems they have are, and then how do they create a structure to handle the problems. Because we as humans, what I hear traders saying, hey, you need to eliminate emotions. We can't eliminate emotions. It's just not humanly possible. We need emotions to operate our day-to-day life, right? But what we can do is we can create a structure in certain environments where we can manage our emotions. So in order for us to manage them, we need to first identify them. So identify and then manage and then kind of actually manage and work on it. And people never get to the part of identifying it. And that's where a lot of self-reflection comes into learning about yourself, understanding your weaknesses and saying, these are my problems, and this is how I'm going to work with it.
And it's funny because for those that listening are like, no, that's not it. It's all about the technicals. There's a really good book called Reminiscence of a Stock Operator, which is the 101 fundamentals of learning the psychology and the philosophy of what it is to be a trader.
Yeah.
And the book was written quite a bit ago, but when I started kind of getting into the markets in 2015, 2016, I would listen to that shit every single day and I would read it every single month. And the first thing it literally talks about is emotions. That's the number one concept that it talks about. It's like how to manage your emotions. I calculate things based off of two measures, demand and direction. right? So demand, like you mentioned, is okay. What's the demand for this, and then what's the tendency of the direction? If you have a Bitcoin at 60,000, perfect. There may be a lot of demand for it, but what is the potential that it actually continues scaling? The second thing is risk and reward, right? Because you may be looking at something, it may be good, right? It may be positioned properly. There may be a lot of volume tendency attached to it, but the risk attached to the trade is not worth the reward. It's the same thing you mentioned with JC Penney. Okay, perfect. The reward was there, but the risk, it didn't make sense. So a lot of people like to overcomplicate it. I was talking with, his name is Mr. Yai. I did a money talks with him out of Singapore. He was the former CEO of Crossbridge Capital, $4.5 billion assets under management. And he said, and you agree with this, obviously, as do I, he said, the charts simply indicate human emotion.
Yeah.
They don't indicate what's going to happen. They're just telling you what has already happened up to this point.
Yeah.
And that the funds, the companies that actually know how to trade, they're actually utilizing this chart to be like, okay, most of the retail, they're going to follow this pattern and they're going to start buying at this price. This is where we're going to find liquidity, or this is where we're going to actually find some sort of base, and that's where we're going to buy, or that's where we're going to sell. And it's a completely different methodology than anything that's taught on YouTube. And those that actually know how to trade, they're usually like the older guys, the boring dudes that get like 50 or 100 views. It's not the flashy guy running with a Lambo and with an iced out watch. That's usually a person that's just a marketer. And that's something that I had to realize. And then that's the first part. The second part, like you said, is you have to work on yourself. Nobody's going to trade on your behalf. As much information as you have, you might agree, you still have to put in the work, and it's about iteration. Now, let's talk a little bit about the current state of the financial market. You know, we just went through a little bit of a correction, a massive correction for some stocks. We saw Meta go down 80%. We see PayPal go down 80%. We saw Apple go down 30%, but then it rebounded.
It's at all-time highs now, Apple. It's
fucking
crazy.
Which is bananas. Like, I didn't make any sense. I actually shorted it when it hit like the resistance of the previous all-time high, and it just like fucking flew right past it. But once again, I broke the rule of demand because they were just rolling out the new Oculus competitor, whatever nonsense that was. But my premise was based off of the demand of the product, not the demand of the stock. And that's where things kind of get a little bit convoluted. But I lost a little bit of money on the trade regardless. Talk to me about the current state of the markets. Do you think it's a good time to be trading? When is a good time to trade? And is it risky right now?
So trading wise, I've never cared what's going on with the market, because we can make money when the market goes up or down, right? The only thing I need action. I need movement, right? So if we're going in a crazy recession and the market's selling off, I love it. If we're going in a crazy bull run, I love it. I just don't like when the market's paused. So with that being said, there's a lot of times I try to stay away from the overall big picture of what's happening with the markets, because I've noticed with me personally, when I start having a directional idea of the big picture of the market, it creates a biasness for me going into the day. Because when I go into the day, like, we can be in a bull run, but the day can offer a short opportunity. Or we can be in a recession essentially, but the day can give us, or the week can give us a long opportunity, right? So when I go super wide, it kind of messes with my judgment. So I just try to stick in this like little wall of like, okay, I understand what the theme of the market is. We're bouncing, we hit all-time lows, market's recovering, great. The theme is we're moving up, we have some bullish activity going on, and then I go smaller to identify the intraday plays, right? Because prior to that, like I said, I would look at the theme and I would miss out opportunities. Oh, well, the market's going to go lower. Because that bias is set up that the market's going to go lower, I'll miss the strong gap up and rally day, right? So I kind of stay away. But in terms of is it a good time to trade? Trading is I think there's always a good time to trade, right? Because you can make money in both directions, up or down, right? Now, if you can only make money when the market goes up, then that's kind of tricky, right? But recognizing that you can make money in both directions is key. And just recognizing that the market is something that always offers opportunities.
There's a lot of people that they make fun of me and they say, Luke, you made money, but you didn't offer any value to the market. And it's this idea of you take advantage of the opportunity of the markets. And what I often tell people is, don't hate the player, don't hate the game, learn how the game is played and take advantage of it. Yeah, I was talking with a buddy in Puerto Rico, and he's like, and I was ranting about the Federal Reserve. It's like, these motherfuckers are out here fractionalizing the money. They're making everybody slaves. And he's like, the only reason you're upset is because you don't have access to the printers.
He's right.
And I was like humbled by it. And I was like, I need to change my perspective on the game, because the game is the game, period. And whether the market is going up or going down, it's how much understanding do I have about the game that is going to help me win, which is interesting that you say that. Now, I want to ask you a little bit about on the personal side. Yes, you're trading. Yes, you're making money. But do you have a portfolio set aside, which is an investment portfolio, whereby you're like, okay, good, I make 10 grand on a day. But I like this stock long term. Do you think long term as well on some sort of plays, or are you just thinking intraday, maybe some swings that are a couple days or a couple weeks?
Yeah, so I put things into long term, and then I try to separate the thinking of long term to now. Now, if you go into like, hey, do you think right now I'd buy some names in the long term? I'd probably wait to see the next 3-4 months of how the market goes. I picked up some long term names in 2020, 2021. Some I got destroyed in. Some that did really, really well. One name I really picked up on the crash was Meadow. Right, I think close to 120, 130. I picked up a ton of it, and now thinking about it long term, I might look to offset it, going back into the risk reward thing. There's certain things I'll buy long term, like Apple, and I don't care what happens. I don't care what the market says. I don't care what happens tomorrow. Like Bitcoin is a good one, right? So I have some crypto going on too. I'll keep buying, and people tell me, "Oh, did you see Bitcoin is at 32,000?" I'm like, I don't care. I'm not thinking about this investment for the next 5-10 years. I don't care if it goes down to 15. Let it be at 15. I'll buy more, right? Because I have a thesis on some investments that, hey, in the macro point of view, they'll go higher.
And the macro doesn't matter.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So I'm like, if I keep acquiring it now, better for me. Like I want the market to stay lower for another 2-3 years so I can buy more and more and more, right?
Let's make some more money so that we can dump it more into the markets.
Exactly. So when people say, oh, it's lower, I want it to go higher. I'm like, I don't want it to go higher. I want to keep buying more.
I'm pissed that Bitcoin's 30 grand, bro. So give me a fucking $10,000 Bitcoin.
I'm like, let it go lower. So I'll buy those things. And the thing is, I don't look at it, right? So I'll keep buying and I don't look at it. And I remember at Bitcoin's high, my portfolio was at a good number. And then I looked at that. And then when it went down, I never opened it. I was like, I don't want to look at the number, because psychologically, you create scenarios. I was up this much, now it's down this much. And I'm like, just park the money away. If it's a 10-year, 15-year play, just leave the money there and leave it. Right, so there's names like Tesla, Amazon, Square. I have a little bit of Apple, not as much as I'd like. Tesla is one I messed up on, by the way. I had a good amount of Tesla prior to the 2020 collapse. Bro, I had a good amount of Tesla prior to the 2020 crash, and then when we saw that crazy crash happen in March of 2020, I offloaded Tesla because I was like, their factories are going to shut down, everything's going to be shut down. So I was in the mindset that I can get this stock at a 50% discount, so let me offload here and buy lower.
You sold the bottom.
Essentially, right? On Tesla, primarily Tesla. I was like, let me sell it. It's going to go down 50% more. Instead of now, it's like, I don't care if it goes down 50% more, buy more. Just keep buying. If you have the capacity, just buy more and think about the 10-year process. Because you don't want to play the long-term game of trying to predict where they're...
Yeah, you can't predict the bottom. You get fucked.
Exactly. Right, so I'm like, I made that mistake, and that mistake stung, but I learned so much from it, and I was like, you know what? My long-term plays that I believe in, I'm going to acquire, and with the things I don't believe in, I'll stay out of. And then it also goes down to when in the market should you go cash heavy, or when should you start investing money? Now, around 2021, 2022, I started acquiring more and more cash because the market was just printing money like no tomorrow, right? And I was like, okay, well, we're going to see interest rates go up. It's going to happen. The cash from the market is going to go into the bond market. The yields are going to pay better. So when the yields pay better, transfer of money goes from here to there. We're going to see this come down. So I'm like, okay, well, do I want to be caught up in that nonsense, or do I hold off, stay cash, and just see what the market does? And that had put me in a great position because I was able to pick up some Meta, and I was able to pick up other few names and buy even more Bitcoin. Just because I was able to stay patient and say, you know what, let me sit on cash. Because there's a thing in the market, cash is trash, yes, but it's good to sit on cash and deploy it at the right time. You don't have to deploy cash every time you have it in something and get rid of it. Sometimes sitting on cash for a couple of months and finding the right opportunity that the market presents is a lot better than just, in my opinion, just letting it go, especially in a crazy high market.
And you can dollar cost average into your conviction.
Exactly.
You don't have to put all the chips on the table
Exactly.
in one go.
Exactly. And that same concept goes into trading, because when I get into some big positions trading wise, I'll put some skin in the game. And when you put skin in the game, you feel how cold the water is or how hot it is. And that might change your perception or not. And you go, okay, well, you know what? I can take this. This trade still looks good. Or you might see something different with it because now you're involved in it. So sometimes I'll scale in, and then when the trade looks better, I'll add more and more and more. Sometimes I'll scale in and I'm like, trade's not working, come right back out.
It's interesting. I do the same way, and I short the market the same way that I long the market. I dollar cost average into shorts the same way I would dollar cost average into longs, except my perspective is different when it comes to I can't handle the stress of day trading, right? I can't handle the looking at the screens, looking at the tickers. It bothers me. So when people ask me, Luke, hey, did you ever buy any shit coins? I'm like, no, bro, I'm not looking at these things to see if somebody buys it and wicks it and then cash out on that. Because I've come to understand how I like to operate. And what I think a lot of people don't realize is their strengths and their weaknesses. And not only that, but their preferences. Have you ever kind of been in a situation where, you have a preference for day trading, but do you feel like potentially you could have made a bigger bag had you just retained positions long term? Have you ever kind of looked at that and been like, you know what? I should have held on to these as an investment portfolio, like a legacy type play.
My Tesla play, I had upwards of $1.5, $1.6 million prior to that crash. So that could have been a 10 to a 15x, whatever it was. And I don't even try to calculate it anymore. So I'm like, when I look at that, I'm like, okay, I learned a very valuable lesson at an early age, but that does sting because, you take out your calculator, you do the splits and everything, and you're like, fuck.
Out there 4 a.m, you're just
you're like, oh man. So that was, that's probably it. But going into preferences and stuff, I don't want to trade for the rest of my life. I probably give myself another 2, maybe 3 years, and go more into the tech side of stuff. I'm more into building. I enjoy building. Day trading is cool, but I think I'm kind of disconnected from it at this stage. I'm not a fan of sitting in front of my computer, even though I trade an hour.
But you'll still invest, right? You'll
investing,
still go into
investing. Of course, yeah, I'll keep investing. But the idea of sitting in front of a computer to me at this stage in my life and buying and selling and finding imbalances and so on is not really attractive to me anymore. I'm more into the idea of how do I create value within a company that, even financially makes a lot more sense for me once again at this stage than to find that trading imbalance. Now, trading for me was a great vehicle to get me to where I'm at, so I'm grateful for it. But there's going to be a point in the next 2, maybe 3 years where I want to let go of it because it's just not intriguing to me anymore as other things.
And it's not the same ROI. We were talking about, okay, perfect. How many customers does TradeZella have right now?
Right now we have over 15,000 customers.
So you have over 15,000, right? You probably have a decent valuation. With 15,000, you're probably in the multi 8 figures, if not 9 figures, or getting somewhere along that line. So you're not going to make 9 figures fucking day trading. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
Trust me, I'm aware. I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that.
So now you're playing the different game, which is, okay, I got my balance, I got my cash flow. Now how do I deploy it into pivoting? Talk to me about pivoting. And a lot of people, they go into the game of e-commerce, so they'll go into the game of trading and they're like, well, I'm a trader or I'm an e-commerce guy, but they don't understand how to evolve into a different era of themselves as an entrepreneur.
I really like this question a lot because I struggled in 2020 because 2020 is when we started TradeZella, and we launched TradeZella in 2022. So far it's been a year. We've had massive success year 1, but the behind the scenes of TradeZella was there were points where I wanted to shut the project off. I'm not a developer. I've never built a product. I know nothing about it. I know nothing about the process. So I dove into it head first, and I dove into it where I'm gonna throw money at something and it's gonna get fixed. That was my mindset, which was very, very wrong. So the first 8 months of TradeZella were shit. I was getting no traction, and I didn't even go market it. I'm talking about just building the product, where I was like, well, we're unable to find a good team. I'm unable to structure a team. I know nothing of how to do this. And there were times where I'm like, I'm burning so much money. And I'm like, well, maybe I should just stick to day trading. And I was like, should I quit this? Should I stop it? Should I keep funding this? Maybe I need a co-founder who is technical and so on. And then I think in 2021, I kind of had this thing where I was like, you know what? I'm not ready for the role that I need to be ready for. So I was like, I need to put myself in a position to re-educate myself, be a student of a new game. Because trading, great. I understand trading very well. I can make money in it. That's phenomenal. I can talk about it for days. But SaaS is something completely new. You know, running different teams, running a marketing team. There's SEO. I'm like, whoa, SEO is a thing. How's SEO work? How do you acquire customers? LTV, all these different, nonsense of words that I've never heard before. So I was like, okay, I have to really go back to day one. And 2021 was a year of me just evolving, learning about myself in a different angle, how to be a better leader, how to be a better person on operating a whole team, how to structure teams better, on thinking long-term, because day trading, you're thinking short-term so much, especially the way I'm trading. So how do I think about a product or something I'm doing where I'm not going to make money today, but the valuation is growing? So I don't see that money in my bank account today, but that paper net worth, you want to call it, is growing, which I have to offset for the next 5, maybe 10 years. So that mindset shift that I needed was very, very hard. So I went through like this breakthrough of reading a lot of new different books in the SaaS business, leadership. I went to events, bro, where I paid like VIP access to be in rooms with great people. And they would ask me questions about my product and I had no idea what to say. And they were looking at me like, oh, this kid's such an idiot. And I'm like, I feel very humbled. And and the funny thing is I make Loom videos privately for me just to come back to in the future. Where when I went to the event, I was like, wow, I went into a room of very high net worth individuals. There was a guy from Pendo. He runs a $1 billion company doing 100 million ARR. And he's asking me questions about my company. And, once again, he's thinking I'm an idiot because I don't know what LTV and SaaS is, or even to a point where I didn't even know what MRR was. Like literally, I didn't even know what MRR was, which sounds very stupid. And I was like, I know nothing. And I felt like an idiot. And I was like, this is where I have to evolve. And I put myself in those uncomfortable situations. And the point is, when you're successful in one area and people know you in the trading space or e-commerce space or whatever it is, you have this
identity attachment.
Identity, yeah. So when you go into a room and like the people don't know you and they don't have respect for you, you're like, well, shit. Like, okay, well, I need to start from zero. And most people offset that in a bad way.
Yes.
For me, it was kind of like, okay, well, I don't know anything. I'm a shit player in this game. Now I'm more motivated, not by the money, but I want to make a name for myself in the world of tech. So that, to me, became a big motivator of like, okay, well, they're going to laugh in my face. Who's this young kid trying to do a SaaS business? He knows nothing about it. He's going to fail. He's going to crumble. And I was like, you know what? I enjoy that. So that pushed me to just kind of evolve as a person. Like I said, going to events, putting myself in uncomfortable rooms where I was an idiot, which, felt really uncomfortable, and just learning as much as I can and just seeing areas to improve. So there was a lot of stuff that went behind the scenes to build the product to where it's at. And it wouldn't get there unless I developed into the new person I had to be. No matter how much money I do
because your company's a reflection of you.
Exactly.
Your trades are a reflection of you. It all comes back down to self. And that's what a lot of people don't understand is you cannot cheat the game.
Nope.
You can't cheat the game. Like, sure, you can find some glitches in the matrix. Like, okay, you catch a good trade. Okay, yeah, you get lucky on a token. But long term, you can't cheat the game. And that's what the beauty of business is business and the market gives you exactly what you deserve.
I say that 100%. I agree with that. Market will expose you, be it today, be it tomorrow, whatever. And I have a saying where, I see people on social media that look great, but you can identify, like, you have a bullshit meter of who's bullshit and who's not. And I always say, like, you guys, some people are getting by, and I'm like, well, you're full of shit. In 2-3 years, the full of shit will be exposed. And I've seen in the past 10 years, so many people come and go, and the people that are full of shit, they're gone. So my thing has always been like, I need to work hard. I need to get better. I need to keep evolving, because if I don't evolve, I'll be out of the game. And the last thing I want, and this is a saying for me from me being 18, is I never want to be kicked out of any game because of the game. I want to leave when I want to leave. Like, I don't want to get out of trading because I blew my accounts and I had to go quit. I don't want to get out of SaaS because I failed. No, I want to get out of it when I'm like, I'm done with this. And I can do that if I get myself to a point of evolving into that person that I need to be. Because, like, you look at all the successful people in the world, they've learned everything on their own and they got to those levels, right? Especially the people that are self-made. So I'm like, this guy can do it. That guy can do it. Look at Jay-Z, multi-billionaire, came from the projects, nothing, everything earned at a very high level. I'm like, okay, he can do it. He figured it out. So I need to get on the same wavelength as this person or that person.
And many times being on the same wavelength requires networking, requires
100%.
connections, and it requires a circle that you surround yourself with. Talk to me about the importance of surrounding yourself with winners.
I think when you're around winners, your wavelength just goes up, right? There's a saying that if there's a wave that goes up 100 feet, no matter how bad you are, you'll catch a small part of that, be it 10 feet, be it 20 feet, right? If there's a wavelength of 2 feet and you catch the same wavelength and you capture a small part of it, the small part's going to be a lot less than the other one, right? So if you are around winners, there's so much you can learn through conversations, right? There's so much you can learn from someone else's expertise, right? You can take something. Like I've had conversations with people, and I kid you not, a 1 hour conversation, I'll have a breakthrough that in my business can make the valuation go up by a couple $1 million. I'm like, wow, I never thought about it that way. Well, if I change this or I change that in my trading or in my business, it'll massively grow, it'll massively work out, or this is the problem we have. So when you speak to people that have a strong level of success in their field and you're surrounded by them, that networking aspect, especially if they're successful and great people, is massive because there's so much to take away. You know, even the other day when we're having conversation, I'm taking away so much from you, right? And I've told you this other day, you're very, very good at speaking, carrying yourself. And I see that, I'm like, wow, this guy's such a good speaker. I want to learn how to speak so well. I want to learn how to grab the attention of people. I'm like, that's a skill set. That's something that you have to really, really, really be good at. And, you know, me seeing you in action, me seeing how you are, how you carry yourself, I'm paying attention to everything you're doing. And I'm like, I'm taking mental notes because I'm like, this guy's successful. This guy's doing it really, really big. What are parts of him that I can take? Like even coming in here and seeing all of this and people can't see the behind, it's amazing, right? Because I've done shoots, I've done all that. And when I come in here, I'm like, wow, everything this guy is doing is a level of exception. When you see that, it carries over to everything else. So those small little mental notes of being around really successful people is stuff that if you pay attention, you can take away so much more value, right? Because people they'll see someone charging $30,000, $40,000 an hour. Like, who would pay $30,000, $40,000? I'm like, well, what if they solved $1 million problem? Would you pay that? And when you flip it, you're like, well, I would. So imagine you have a problem that can add $1 million net worth to your business or to your company, whatever it may be. And you have to have a 1 hour conversation that cost you $50,000 to solve it. Would you do it? They're like, yeah. I'm like, exactly. It's the same concept, but you have to switch your mindset. You can't say, well, it's costing me $50,000. It's costing me this much. It's like, no, well, what can it offer me?
It's all an investment.
Exactly.
And the thing is, people only gauge investments in the monetary aspect, which is exactly what you said is you shifted your mindset from hustler to boss. Okay, perfect. I'm hustling. I'm trading.
Yeah.
I'm grinding. But now you're like, okay, perfect. If I want to take it to the next level, I need to be a boss, which requires a completely different mindset, a completely different set of skills, and the humility to recognize, dude, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Like in every big dog that I talk to walks with so much humility of like, yeah, like I don't know that much, but they actually mean it.
Yeah.
Because they realize the levels of the game
100%
that actually exist. I was talking with this guy and he was like, yeah, I trade for the central bank. And I'm like, what do you mean you trade for the central bank? And he's like, yeah, the central bank trades Forex pairs. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, they're buying and selling dollars to increase their bag. And they're just trading it with different Forex pairs. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, how? They're like, oh yeah, they settle their trades through the Bank of International Settlements. I'm like, okay, that's what the Bank of International Settlements is. They're actually settling payments for who? The fucking Fed. Like there's cats seated in that room that are doing $100 billion trades. And I'm like, these people know, and I have to have the humility to recognize that these people know something that I don't. So if I want to elevate and I want to get to the next level, I have to position myself to be the smallest guy in the room. And I have found my success, in as small as it is, in being the smallest guy in the room and always positioning myself in a situation whereby I feel inadequate. But in the inadequacy, you can still provide value, which is exactly what you were talking about, is you need to be taking mental notes, not only about what you can learn, but also about what you can give. Talk to me about that part of networking, about identifying problems and being able to position yourself correctly through solving problems of other people.
So you're saying, how do you identify other people's problems and offer
that value so that even though you are an amateur in that scenario, you can still get into the room, you can still be part of the conversation?
Sure. Okay, good question. So to just piggyback off that, there is one thing when you are in a space of networking, in my opinion, or networking with high individual people, you have to have some sort of value, right? Which is the only way there's a value exchange. Now, in terms of offering value in return, I'm trying to say, I think one area would be to identify how you could offer value to each individual, because every person has different levels of value they need. And if you can offer that person value in their industry, in their space, or whatever they're maybe lacking, that will build that interconnection, right?
You have to study people like you study markets.
Yeah.
And be able to supply
whatever
the demand.
Yeah.
And most people that feel inadequate, they're like, well, I have no value to give. Well, if you have no value to give, then get the fuck out, right? Just get out of the room.
Yeah.
But I've learned that in the inadequacy, you can still identify through being aware, through taking mental notes, and then going back and be like, okay, how can I service this person? And that puts you in the next level. Now, I want to take a little bit to the business side, talking about building teams. So you go from being the dude that's out here trading, you're doing your own thing, you're running a community, but eventually you're like, okay, I want to step it up. I want to get to the next level. Talk to me about team building.
Sure. So team building, it starts with culture, right? Whatever team we build, we have to establish a culture. What is the culture we're going to follow? Now, every team that is built entirely has their own culture. There's no such thing as a right culture or a bad culture. It's just whatever culture you have has to stem to everyone. So one culture I follow in, where some people may find it toxic, is if we are building a team, and let's say we have a team of 10, 15, 20 people, and we're building a product, whatever the case is, we are all here because we're exceptional. So not all of us need to hear, good job, hear a clap, hear praise, things like that. We're all here because we're exceptional. You do something great, move on to the next thing. You're here because we expect you to be exceptional. Now, that may sound toxic, but because we're building something at such a massive level, that's important. Then it comes into, hey, any feedback that we give is not personal. So if I tell you something, you tell me something, this culture of what we're trying to build, it has to be open to, I'm not going to take anything personally. You tell me, I understand. If you're telling me, it's to the greater good of what we're building. And then that goes into, what are we building? We're not building a business to make money. Money is a byproduct of whatever you build. What is the mission statement? Because if you have a strong enough mission statement that your team can follow, your customers will follow, and then the money will follow, right? So our main mission on TradeZella is, how do we build a tool that gives traders the highest probability to be successful? I'm not saying, hey, how do we build $1 billion business? No, how do we build a tool that services retail traders? What do retail traders lack? So when everyone is in the room, we're all on the same vision of like, okay, well, we believe that we can help retail traders. We believe that our tool will help them. We believe that we're on the same mission, that whatever you tell me or I tell you, it's for the greater good of the mission.
Yeah, it's to accomplish the mission and make sure that the vision is aligned.
Exactly.
And if everybody understands the vision, then whatever feedback comes in, it's to make sure that it propels the mission to actually achieving that. So I agree with you fully. And of course, there's different levels in the organization, right? Like once you start building, you have your customer service teams and things like that, where you have like low-level employees. The treatment needs to be different as opposed to like your C-level, where it's like, all right, guys, thank you, that's cool, but like you're just doing what you said you were going to do. And many times people talk about company culture, they talk about this idea of like emotional like compatibility or compatibility of behavior. But at the end of the day, none of these things matter if you don't have a fucking product, if you're not making money. And if you're not making money, I often tell people, without vision, people perish. But without money, the vision perishes.
Yeah.
So you have to get the dough. you have to make the money.
Yeah, of course.
Wrapping it up, I want to talk about your entire mindset of taking things to the next level. Now, you go from trading, doing 8 figures, now having a company that's valued at 8 figures going into 9. And what's next? What keeps you motivated?
So I have a lot of different things that keep me motivated. So one thing is I want to keep pushing how far I can go with everything, right? From a business point, where can I take things? I see billionaires, and it's not the concept of money, but it's the achievement of like people are billionaires. A human can achieve so much. So I want to keep pushing myself and see where I can take myself. That's number one. Number two, I believe every human on this earth is given a God-given ability, and our job is to use it as much as we can and kind of share it with the world, whatever that is. I also think we're all put in certain situations. Some are very, very lucky, and we're all tested, right? I'm a very strong believer that where I am in my life, yes, there's hard work, but there's also luck involved, right? I know some people don't believe in luck, but there is luck involved. I could have been a kid born in Africa with no opportunity to know anything. What's different about me? Where I was born, the place I was, there's a level there, but obviously I worked hard too, and I took advantage of those opportunities. Some people don't have any opportunities in this world. So my motivation is, I was born in Pakistan, came to America when I was like 6, 7, I essentially grew up there. But where I was born in Pakistan is very poor, right? Gujarat, how my dad's upbringing, very, very poor. My dad's worked really hard to get us out of there. And, when I see kids back home, they have, no matter how hard they work, they will never have any sorts of opportunity in those parts of the world. So I'm like, I've been blessed to raise the bar higher and higher and higher. And as I raise the bar higher and higher, I want to take and offer opportunities to these people. That selfishly keeps me motivated. When I feel lazy or I feel burnt out or whatever it is at a certain day, I think about that. I'm like, well, I've been tested with these abilities to push the needle, and I want to push it so I can go and help these people out. I want to give them opportunities. Not that I want to give them money. I want to establish opportunities for them where they can change their generational structure or whatever the case is. So that's another thing that pushes me on top of just trying to see how far I can take things and just testing the limits, because in my household, I remember when I was 19, I told my mom, I want to make $100,000 a month. She's like, $100,000 a month? No one makes that. Like $100,000 a year is like great. $100,000 a month, it's not really possible. So when I keep pushing certain boundaries, I'm like, wow, like everything in life is essentially possible with the right mindset, the right structure, the right work ethic. You put those things together and magic happens. So it's just keep pushing it in different elements and just keep going with it.
It's all a game of probabilities. I'm going to defy your comment on luck, and I'll give you my reasoning as to why luck doesn't exist, in my opinion, and maybe it's a data set for you. So this idea you said, okay, I could have been born a kid in Africa, but what are the probabilities of that? Was it luck, or was it simply a probability statistical thing that you weren't? It's what? Your probability is 1 in 10 that you were going to be born there. Okay, perfect. You got out of the 9. But essentially you got placed somewhere else, which wasn't necessarily the best either. But then what are the probabilities that you got a good family? Okay, add probabilities to that. Now, what are the probabilities that your parents actually cared enough to work hard to give you a decent life? Perfect. Now add the probabilities of them getting into the US. Now add the probabilities of you being the way that you are. So yeah, the odds may be super against you,
But you still make it work, yeah.
but the probabilities still exist if you understand that it is a game of probability. Because if you just leave it up to luck can also be a cop-out.
Of course not.
And you could be like, oh, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking more so like in general. Like some people be like, well, you know what? I'm just unlucky. It wasn't for me.
No, I don't think anyone should think in a way of like, I'm unlucky. Even people in this parts of the world, I do agree with the probability aspect where even someone in the most, quote unquote, if you want to label as unluckiest situation, it does have probability on their side. That probability may be a lot smaller than this person, but the probability exists everywhere. That I agree with. But the probability may be smaller. But it is still trying to find what that probability edge is and taking advantage of it.
The internet is a big big equalizer of opportunity. AI is a big equalizer of opportunity, I think. And especially with the democratization of the internet and people having access to the internet, now it's like you said, it's giving them the opportunity and the tools online for them to be able to actually increase their probabilities of success. Wrapping up, over the last decade, trading, and I don't want to talk about business, but over the last decade trading, what is the number one principle that you've learned?
I think your trading is a reflection of you. So whatever your reflection, whatever your belief system is, whatever your inefficiencies are, all will be shown in the markets. So the quicker you're able to identify those inefficiencies, the quicker you're able to identify those problems and solve them and create a structured barrier around them, the quicker you'll achieve success, not in just the markets and everything else. So it's just how can you identify it and how can you create that barrier system to tackle it?
Last question. for the aspiring trader, the person that wants to make a full-time trading, the aspiring entrepreneur, the entrepreneur that wants to get to an 8-figure valuation, that wants to be making $1 million a month? What is your piece of advice?
My piece of advice is play the long game, right? Think in terms of long-term, everything that you do. Try to look at what stage you're at when you take advice, right? It's also very important to know what advice you're applying to what stage. So me going into, for example, a SaaS business right now is great for this stage. So because I'm talking about a SaaS, doesn't mean someone that's trading 1 year should go into SaaS just because I went into SaaS. So it's also knowing what advice to filter in and filter out for that current stage of your life. Because with social media, we hear all sorts of different sorts of advice and opinions, which is fine, but you have to have a good filter system to know, well, this is applicable to me now. It is not applicable to me then, or whatever the case is. So using a solid, I guess, filter system for advice is huge. It's been huge for me. Yeah.
Brother Umar,
Thank you so much, man.
thank you for coming on, brother.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was another episode of Money Talks, an exclusive conversation with some of the most brilliant minds in business, entrepreneurship, and finance. Hopefully you guys were able to get some inside details, some insights from a successful trader, somebody that's actually been able to get results and has been able to transition from hustler to boss. I learned some great things today. Hopefully you guys did as well. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys on the next one.